Hey, MOMnation, and welcome back to another episode of Mental Wealth, where we work on ourselves so we don't pass it down to these beautiful little angels that we created, Laura.
Yes, exactly.
They
We
don't
do
need our
not
shit.
want to pass it down.
No, they don't need
We want
any
to
of it.
pass down the good stuff.
Exactly. And they especially don't need what we're going to talk about today.
They don't need it.
So let's talk triggers. And I got to tell you, let me stop. Everybody, this is the amazing Laura. And if you haven't been following us or watching any of our previous episodes, she is a licensed counselor and really focused. Maybe I should let you say this. Tell me if this is wrong. You focus on women and children, yes?
I do. My practice is built to support women and children through trauma and all kinds of tough stuff. And that's really what we do here.
I love it. And I really appreciate, and I know our audience does too, your time each and every month. We've been doing this for quite a while now, couple of years under our belt here, which I'm super proud of. And I mean, just like look back at all of the awesome support and awesome value that we have put out there for free, man.
I know we have so many good episodes. I love that we have this playlist that we can share whenever we need to support other people who are going through difficult things. There's an episode for like everything now.
Yep. Totally agree. And as things pop up or as posts are made in the group and topics come up that are trending, we'll just continue to have more of that value for you guys. So let's hop into triggers, friend. Let's talk about them. And this is actually really well timed for me because I had to follow how can I say it? I recently had a situation, and I'll talk about it as the show unfolds. And I had to follow that trigger down to, okay, it's not just about like the thing that happened. Like the thing that happened isn't what is really getting to me, right? Like it's not the thing that happened. It's how did it make me feel that I really needed to like lay into and understand. So I kind of had to follow that trigger line. I don't even know if that is a word or if that makes sense to anybody. It's just what I call it to get back to, okay, so what's the meat and the potatoes of the matter here? Why am I really pissed off? Like, it's not about the thing, you know? So that's what I'm sort of hoping unfolds here, and where our audience can kind of get some tips and tricks on how to follow that line to really get to the bottom of why they're upset. So hopefully we can talk about that a little bit today.
Yeah. Like, I love how you kind of described, like, it's not about the thing. The thing that happened is just the thing that happened, but the thing that happened is actually connecting to your way back memory machine that contains all the feelings and all the sensations and all the yucky stuff that come up when we get triggered. Like when, you know, like we say the past is present, right? So what that means is in the present moment, the distress that I'm feeling is probably not about the present moment if it's like extreme distress. If I'm experiencing like extreme distress where I feel overwhelmed and I don't know what to do and I'm kicked out of my window of tolerance that we talk about, most likely it's about something from the past.
Yeah. So
unresolved thing.
So what is the first step? Because you'd have been so proud of me, because like normally in a moment where something happens that really pisses me off, like it's kind of a 0 to 60 fire. And I stopped myself before I reacted, before it got, kind of out of control. And I had a little talk with myself, and I'm like, ooh, ding, 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 that's a trigger. So even being able to recognize it without spiraling and attacking and it's this other person's fault and blah, 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 like I had to stop myself because I recognized it. And I feel like for me, like that's growth right there. How can others that are feeling that aren't in that spot yet, or maybe haven't experienced a moment like that yet, how can they realize when they've been triggered?
I think that it starts with that feeling, like you described, that 0 to 60, right? Like if I'm at, or 0 to 100, if I'm at 100, odds are I'm being triggered, like just right there every single time. If I'm at 100, I'm being triggered. And I can stop and say like, oh, this is something big right now. Like I'm being triggered right now before. So we talk about respond versus react. Like I'm going to respond to this versus react to this. I'm not going to react right now. I'm going to say, okay, I'm at 100 right now. And just noticing that, like just stopping there and saying like, I'm at 100 right now. Take a breath. And then you can kind of float back to, where did this come from? What just happened? And then you can sort of identify what that might connect to.
I like the pause button because how often do we, just as humans, living life, doing what we do, lash out, like clap back right away in order to, like, what do we think that is? Is that going to make us feel better? Like if we, you know what I'm saying? But it never works. I don't know if it does for anybody else, but it never worked for me. It only made the situation worse.
Yeah, it might make you feel better like instantly, but only for an instant. And then it's going to stop feeling good and it's going to start feeling worse because the situation is going to escalate and get worse and, you know, become out of control. Like, for example, those are like, so like interpersonal situations are like really tough because you clap back or snap back or whatever. And you've upset that person and now that person is engaged and triggered and you've got this like back and forth going on and nobody's thinking rationally and the conversation's not productive and everything is just kind of out of hand. But when it's, let's say, like I'm frantically, like, okay, if I'm walking out of my house and I can't find my keys, I drop my water bottle, I stub my toe, I like all these different things are happening at once and I'm already running late. Like I'm at 100, I'm getting triggered in that moment, even though you think like, oh, it's about all these things, the protocol is the same. It's stop and then notice like, okay, I'm at 100. Going faster and continuing to like rush around and find my keys and do all these things is just making the situation worse. Like it's making it harder for me to do what I'm trying to do. So like even in the most basic situation, reacting instead of like pausing is going to make it worse.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then obviously, like once you're in reaction mode and somebody else is playing ball with that, then it just becomes I'm reacting to your reaction. Like our triggers are just talking, basically, right?
Right. We're just triggering each other. And like when it comes to a trigger, like it doesn't have to be something super severe. It doesn't have to be something that like comes from you know, a major like trauma from the past, right? Like we always think about trigger, you know, I don't know. I think people say the word trigger and have like a negative connotation.
Right.
But the way that I think about it is like it's an activating event.
Right. It just activates something else, right? Like a feeling.
Like it just activates that, you know, mechanism in your brain that stops thinking and starts doing. Because the doing is supposed to, like you said, make us feel better. It's a coping. Whatever we do when we're triggered is a coping mechanism or, you know, a way to like resolve that internal distress. Like, for example, a sense of urgency, like feeling like things need to happen like immediate, like it's an emergency. That's an indicator that you're kind of in one of those activating events. You're in a trigger. If you think that it's an emergency and it's not really an emergency. Like when it feels urgent, that sense of urgency. And then the response to that is like, I've got to get this done right now. Like I have to put everything else on hold. Like I have to just do this. Like I have to take care of this. When it feels so urgent, like you can know that you're in a trigger and you can slow down and kind of stop yourself and say like, doing this thing isn't the only way to manage this distress. Because the distress is the problem. The problem isn't the problem. It's the feeling.
So I have like kind of an example. So for instance, the way I used to, because, you know, I'm a child of the 70s, so cell phones haven't been around for a very long time. And, you know, according to me, maybe to everybody else, and when you got a phone call prior to having cell phones, like you answered it, you know, the phone rang, you answered it. So my sort of knee-jerk reaction, and I've gotten a lot better about this over time, guys, but my knee-jerk reaction is if I get a text message, I got to respond to it right away. Because I guess that's my trigger, right? From way back when we had to respond to the thing called the telephone. I'm guessing that's where it comes from. I have always felt like I need to be responsive if somebody is reaching out, and I need to be responsive quickly. But it got to a point where, you know, you have to imagine I get 20 text messages at a time, any given minute in the day, just based on what I do, right? And so that started to become extremely overwhelming for me, very, very stressful for me to need to react to that, until I realized I don't have to respond to them right away. This girl can wait an hour or 5 minutes, or I can finish up with my current client, or I can finish up with my lunch, or with my kids' homework, or hell, playing with my kid, you know? I can finish up with that and then get to them later. Typically, like, granted, their emergencies do arise and things do happen, but typically it's not an emergent situation.
Right. It's not an emergency.
It's not. And you know, I think often people use text messaging as like a, hey, this is when I can send it. You get to it when you can kind of thing. Like, you know, for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so that was another huge conversation with myself that I had to have, but I had to realize that I was being triggered, and I had to, for myself, process where that came from until I could have a different outlook about it. Is that a good example?
That is a good example. That's a really good example, because what I'm hearing is this need that you have in like to respond right away is coming from an internal like belief about yourself, right? So like what's the underlying belief about yourself that comes up when you don't respond right away? Like, is it I'm not a good enough friend, or I'm not doing a good job, or something like that?
Something to that effect. Like I need to, I'm not hitting the mark, because I should be able to respond to messages that I get on this little computer in my pocket.
Yeah. You know? So it's that negative belief that you're avoiding by responding right away, right? Like you're dealing with that negative belief by like responding right away. That's what you're coping with. So we want to reframe that belief. So in order to like dispel or sort of dissolve the trigger, we change the negative belief about ourselves. So like, that's not true, right? Like you realize like, that's not true that I'm somehow failing or I'm not doing a good enough job if I don't respond right away. Like that's not accurate. So once we realize that that's not true, because other people like text messages and other people's lives and all of these things are just things that are happening, and they're not like, it doesn't say anything about you, how you respond to those. Like you are, you know, a responsible and responsive person, and you'll get to it when you get to it, because you're able to manage many things at once. And so you kind of have to take that black and white perspective of like good enough or not good enough, and then expand into the nuance. And when we get into the nuance, there you find the truth of the matter.
That makes a lot of sense. It took several people who are closer to me, who can just, you know, give it to me straight, to say, girl, you don't need to respond in 60 seconds. Like, I know you're dealing with a lot. Like, you don't need to do that. And it took several of them, several times for me to be like, oh, maybe they're onto something here. Because I don't know.
Yeah. Because it's hard to learn. We don't just reframe these are like core beliefs that are like deeply ingrained from our, like you described this belief from your childhood.
Yeah.
This was not something that you just came up with yesterday. This is something that you've believed for years and years.
And, you know, which is, it's so weird and complex when I think about it, because answering the phone back then when the phone rang because you'd missed the call and you wouldn't know who the heck called you, like that didn't, just because you missed it, maybe you were in the bathroom or something, like that didn't make you a bad person. So I don't know how I got there from here, you know, eventually along the way.
Yeah, you got there with shoulds.
Yeah.
Like
I should on myself.
I should it all. You should it all over yourself.
I did. It's not okay.
It's not okay. You got there with shoulds. Like, I should be able to respond right away. I should be able to answer this. I should be able to do this because I used to be able to do this. I used to pick up the phone when it rang. I used to respond to people right away. I used to call people back when like things were different. So I should be able to. That's where a lot of stuff comes from. A lot of those beliefs come from the shoulds.
And what I didn't consider in all of that shoulding is technology changes, all of that kind of stuff. So we need to kind of shift along with that, right? Because back then, first of all, I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't running a business. Like, I was a kid in school.
Right.
Basically, because cell phones, I probably got my first cell phone when I was like, you're gonna laugh, but 21.
Yeah.
You know, but I wasn't doing all those things, and I wasn't, and 20 people weren't calling me at once. Like, that can happen now, you know, where it's just constant.
Our access to people and information has changed so much that we have to now intentionally change the way that we respond to that device. Like, we have to change, and we've talked about this on another episode, like, change our relationship with the device. We have to change our relationship with the interaction, with the access. Like, I don't respond right. People know that I don't respond right away because I'm in session. I can't multitask at my job.
No, you can't. Like, you can't be like, hold on, I know, you know, you're really sad about this, but let me just answer this text. Like, you can't do that.
Right. Like, as a therapist, I do not multitask.
Yeah.
I do one thing at a time, and I sit in a session and I'm completely in that session. And so my phone is either on do not disturb or it's put away in my purse, whatever. And so I go 8 hours sometimes without access to my phone at all. And so I have to be okay with that. And I have to know that if somebody else is not okay with that, that's about them and that's not about me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is, you know, obviously, like, and I don't know in your situation how you handle it, but for me, like, this does not count true emergencies. Like, if something is, you know, if my house really truly is on fire, or my kid's sick at school or something like that, you know what I mean? But for the things that can wait, I have, I think we just had this, we laughed about this the other day, actually. Like, I'm getting so much better at the things that can wait. And, you know, people are, and I don't know why I ever thought this wouldn't be, but people are understanding of it too. I mean, do you find that in your life, people are like, yeah, babe, like, I know you got a job and just get back to me whenever. Yeah, totally.
People understand, like, your friends. I asked someone recently, like, do your friends judge you? Like, your actual friends, your true friends, like, are they judging you for that behavior? Most of the time, the answer is no.
Right.
Because they're your friends. Like, I remember when I would, like, my partner and I, we would get in maybe an argument or something, and one of us would say, like, do you think I'm just a jerk? Like, what kind of person do you think I am that would be my reaction to this information, right? Like, it's the same with friends. Like, we think about, like, if my friend is so concerned that I'm going to get upset with them, or like they're going to be or that I'm going to be like mad or something like that if they don't respond to me right away or something like, what do they think? Do they think that I'm a jerk? So when we often prescribe other people's opinions to ourselves, like we sort of assume other people's opinions based on our fears and not based on their character.
So we make shit up, in other words.
Yeah. Our fear does. Our fear makes shit up. It tells us they're going to think that you're the worst and they're not going to want to be your friend anymore. And I'm guilty of that. I hadn't talked to one of my friends in a long time. She had just moved and, I just was busy, whatever. And so I hadn't checked in on her. And I was like, she's not going to, in my head, I'm like, she's going to be mad at me. Like, she's not going to want to be my friend anymore.
Aww.
And it's like, we've been friends for like 20 years. Like, that's not the case, but I was feeling scared and guilty. And I was being triggered by my own stuff, like my own fear of like being alone or my fear of like not being liked or not being not being somebody's friend, like not being chosen. Right. Like, so all those negative things, like, oh, this makes me feel this way. And so now I'm assuming that this other person is going to behave in a way that is inconsistent with their character. But if I think about their character and I think about the friendship that we have, I'm going to realize like, oh, none of that's true. And when we realize that our internal stuff, our beliefs about those things are just based on our feelings and they're not based on facts, then we can change our mind.
I love that. Can we talk more about realizing that you're in trigger and then the next step after that, like the whole, I don't know if that makes sense what I said in the beginning, like I just kind of traced the feeling back to from whence it came, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. We call that a flow back in EMDR.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically, sometimes I refer to it as like jumping in the Wayback Machine or like get in the DeLorean, like go for a drive, like figure out where it comes from.
Right.
And if you kind of allow yourself, so basically two things have to happen. One, you have to realize that you're triggered. The second thing that has to happen is your nervous system has to feel safe enough to actually explore. Otherwise, you won't get the answer. Your brain will just be like, I don't know, this thing, it's this.
Yeah, they did this.
It'll just keep saying it's this, and you won't be able to recognize what it's really from. So we have to have that sense of like, relaxation. So you almost have to like diffuse the trigger before you can do the float back. Like you kind of have to get calm a little bit. You don't have to be all the way calm, but like you have to at least take a breath and kind of stop and say like, I'm being triggered right now. This isn't an emergency. Do I have time to like examine this? Is this the right time to examine this? And if it is, then you can do it. If it's not, wait till you go to therapy. Wait till your next session and then notice what happened.
So what would not be the right time? Like, what are some examples of, obviously, if it's an emergency, right, then we need to react to, like, barring that situation. Like, what are some examples of what wouldn't be the right time?
What wouldn't be the right time to trace it back would be
to like stop and wait and talk about it in therapy or do it another time.
Yeah. So like, I think about when you're dealing with like a toddler, right? My toddler's not going to like put their temper tantrum on hold while I like do some self-exploration. So in that case, you kind of just have to use your coping skills, manage your distress and like reduce your distress by noticing, okay, I'm being triggered by this toddler and this fit needs to stop. That's the emergency in my head, is that the fit needs to stop. But in order for me to be effective at stopping it, I have to get calm. So that's kind of when I'm calming down. That's when I'm like, okay, I'm noticing the trigger. Now let me calm down. And then I can address the problem in front of me. And then later on, I can say, my kid was having a fit. And I don't know why I was so triggered by this kid's temper tantrum. It made me feel totally out of control. It made me feel like I was a little kid. It made me feel like I was being attacked by them, like they were abusing me. Like I felt like awful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can be like, okay, is that a familiar feeling?
Mm.
And then I can do my float back. So sometimes it's helpful to say like, okay, is this familiar? And then you just notice the feeling and tell your brain, shoot up like the most familiar memory that connects to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then your brain will just kind of throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe
I like
need
that.
to deal with the kid first.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially if you're like in Target, you know, when it's happening.
Which is when this happens, right?
Oh God. Yeah, you remember those days.
Yeah.
I think it still happens as teenagers. My 11-year-old had a fit in Target the other day.
Yeah. Meltdowns happen. Adults have meltdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It never ends. We all can have an anxious sort of distress fit.
Yeah. Don't we know it? So let's just pretend we're successful in that trace back.
Okay.
And we get there. So for example, here's what happened to me. So there is a family get together that happens on a regular basis. And it's fairly large. So it requires some managing of what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Like all of this kind of stuff. And it's been managed a certain particular way for quite some time. Like we're talking decades. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I attended the thing and I recognized that there were a lot. First of all, there was a bunch of drama. And as I was not participating in the drama, be proud, I was observing it. And I was like, holy smokes. Like if we change just XYZ in the way we manage things, it would not give such a window of opportunity for this drama to happen. And I'm like, you know how I am, right? Like my little brain's like figuring it out and I'm like building a plan. And now I have this whole new plan. And like, this is happening as the drama is happening, like in my head.
Yeah.
So it was a bit embarrassing because it happened in front of my son and I didn't like that. And so a couple of days later, I decided to post a message to our little group that we have where we communicate. And I was like, hey guys, like that was uncomfortable. I think everyone can agree because it happened in front of everyone. So it's like not like no one knew what I was talking about, you know? And I think, you know, we could have a discussion between all of us to throw out some ideas and maybe figure out how we can fix it or make maybe some necessary changes so that this doesn't unfold in the future or there's less of a probability that it will. Mm-hmm. Okay. Here I am thinking this is great. Like we're going to have this adult conversation.
Productive. Yeah.
Went over like a fart in church, let me tell you. Yeah, bad.
Yikes.
So then I was attacked and I was called names and I was told I was doing all these things. And I'm like, whoa. Like I just observed and I'm just trying to start a conversation. And I know that like a lot of other people, like I have no problem being vocal, you know me. Mm-hmm. So like I knew for a fact that I was being vocal for many others as well. Yeah. Like I was just kind of speaking for, you know, the lot of us that sort of felt that way. And I thought we could have, and these are like straight adults, Laura, like in their 60s, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like thinking we could have this really valuable conversation where we put out on the table, you know, our things that we just could improve upon. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't like calling anyone out. And I was like really proud of myself of how super cool I was because I was calm. I was emotionally regulated. I was grounded when I put it out there. And I was just like, let's keep this thing going because it's a really great thing. I hate to see it dissipate because people are getting their feelings hurt for no reason. Like, let's work this, you know? But yeah, I was met with not at all what I had expected. And so the old version of me, having not had an understanding, you know, I've done a lot of work. I don't have to go through it with you. The old version of me would have, I have a very sharp tongue, would have annihilated these people, like annihilated them, right? But I didn't. And I stayed in my lane. And I was like, hey man, like you're kind of supporting my point here. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're attacking me now. And I was just simply bringing up the conversation of how can we make things better? And then I decided, you know what, I'm out. I just sort of backed out of the whole shindig, which was unfortunate because that was what I was trying to prevent from happening with others, and several others also backed out of the whole shindig after that. But I was able to, and the whole purpose of me giving you this background story is I was able to, because I was emotionally regulated, I was able to take a moment, trace it back and be like, oh, they're just infantilizing me and treating me like they always have. That's it. I'm a baby in their eyes. No 46-year-old is going to come tell us what to do. You know what I'm saying? Even though that wasn't the case, I think their glasses were filtered and that's what they were seeing. Yeah. So I just decided, hey, you know what, guys? I'll just back out. Y'all can have your little get together and I'm not going to be a part of it. And that's unfortunate, but I don't need to have this thing for me to continue a relationship with those that I feel close with, those that we have a good bond, that we have a reciprocal, respectful relationship. I don't need all y'all to keep those relationships alive. And so that was kind of my thing. And that's why I said this is very well timed.
Yeah, that situation is tough. With families, those triggers come up even more because they're so ingrained, right? Like, remember, it's from your childhood.
Right.
The beliefs are from your childhood. Your family brings you back into a lot of those same patterns and a lot of those same cycles. So like our roles kind of shift. Like when I'm the head of my household in my household, but then I go somewhere back with my family, I'm maybe no longer the head of the house, right? Like I'm put in this other role of like the kid or the one who, or the screw up or the scapegoat or
the loud one,
right? Or the, you know, whatever, the irresponsible one or the one, you know, that has, you know, trouble with addiction or whatever. Like there's always you're the something, right? And that pattern is like deeply entrenched in those family dynamics and the family culture and the family lore. And like everybody is sort of sucked in a way to like that same thing. And I hear it from my clients all the time, like I was this one, I was the loud one, I was the, you know, class clown, I was, you know, the people pleaser, I was the one who always like balanced everything out, like that was my responsibility. You know, we kind of get stuck in those roles, and so it's easier to get triggered around family for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I have always been the outspoken one. Always. So I'm like, okay, like, are you guys really listening to what I'm saying and putting aside who you think I am or what you've treated me like for 46 years and actually being like, hey man, there might be some value in this. Now, I think the important part for me to state here is that I was never upset. I was more hurt than anything. But it wasn't because they didn't want to listen to me or didn't like my ideas. Wasn't that at all. Like if somebody would have been like, hey, you know, thanks. I appreciate you coming to the table with some ideas. Like I know, you know, everybody has ideas like belly buttons, but you know, we're just going to continue to do it like we want. But thanks.
Right.
I'd have been cool. I'd have been like, okay, all y'all keep it up.
Sure.
fine. And I probably wouldn't have reacted the way I did when I was just like, I'm out, like, peace out. I can't do this. You know what I mean? Because at least I would have been like listened to like a human should be. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe I'm crazy and they shouldn't, but I just feel like all humans, we have a voice for a reason and it deserves to be heard. And I'm a big girl. Like, if you don't like my ideas and if you think that, they're dumb or whatever, like, tell me that. Okay, fine. But to call me names and all of this kind of stuff, yeah, no.
Right. And that's the thing. They were triggered in that moment. And they were reacting to their triggers instead of pausing and responding. And you can know when we're in a situation like that, you can know from your place of calm, stability, and safety, then you can know that you are not the one, it's not about you.
Yeah. Oh,
it's about their stuff.
100%. 100%. And you know what I even saw? We've talked about this before. Like when you're in fight or flight and you're not completely computing, they weren't even listening to any, like, they weren't even really reading my words because they said some things and I was like, well, I answered that like 2 comments ago.
Right.
You didn't. So they were like not even paying attention. I felt like you don't care about me enough to actually read what the hell I wrote. Like, you just are going to jump to the chase here, like just skip to the good part. Like, anyway.
Yeah, that's really upsetting.
But
you have to know, or at least it will shift your mindset to know that it's not that they don't care about you enough to read. It's that they aren't in a calm enough state to want to solve the problem. They're stuck in their distress and wanting to just, they want to react to that in order to feel better. Like, it's not about you at all.
Right. Which in my emotional regulated state, I was able to get there, Laura. I was totally able to get there.
That's so good.
Thank you. And then, it just turned into, it's just crazy how when people cause a flame or create a flame and then all of a sudden they're in victim. So once they started going into victim, I was just like, peace out, man.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When, it's hard when adults lack the emotional stability to have insight, because insight creates emotional responses. So like if I have to reflect on my own behavior, that brings up emotions that I don't like. And so instead of that, I'm avoiding those emotions that I don't like, those negative things about myself, right? Remember that we are avoiding during our triggers. So I'm avoiding all that. And so I can't look at what you're saying. I can't recognize the reality of the situation, because then I would have to confront all that stuff that I'm avoiding. Right. And so I just have to keep it here. I have to keep it up in the muck. I have to keep it about this problem. Like, it's not about, the underlying thing. It's about this, they did this wrong. That's what this is about.
Exactly. And that's exactly how it unfolded. Exactly how it unfolded.
Yeah.
And I'm just like the conversation that we had earlier about, going from a home phone to a cell phone, how that technology changes, the world has shifted, like we got to shift with it.
Right.
Well, the way that we manage this thing, we got to shift too, man, because, it started several decades ago and the world was a very different place several decades ago. Not only that, but like, if you want longevity of a thing, like you might want to, play with the younger folk a little bit, because they're the ones that are going to be keeping it up.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my only point. So
you're exactly right. No, I think that's a perfect example, because that's something that happens to all of us, is like our families our interactions with our families like can really trigger us in a way that is often hard to see in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
When it's with our family, it's often hard to see in the moment because we're, so we're stuck in that entrenched pattern. But you were able to like zoom out and sort of step out of it. Like, this isn't about me, so kind of going back to like, what do? We have the trigger, we stay emotionally regulated, or we get emotionally regulated, right? Like, that's the first step. So when we're triggered, we think the problem is the problem, but we have to recognize that the emotion is the problem. Like, the emotion that's coming up from the trigger is the thing we need to deal with, is the thing we need to address, not whatever's causing the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So in the trigger, call out the emotion, like what emotion, label it. They say name it to tame it. So we label the emotion. We say, I'm feeling out of control. I'm feeling like a failure. I'm feeling disrespected. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling inadequate. I'm feeling, right? So like those beliefs and emotions that are coming up, like I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry. Get a feelings wheel. They're very helpful.
I do like feelings wheels. Yes.
Yeah, I love a good feelings wheel. I've got one right in my office. So you use the feelings wheel, figure out what you're feeling. And then I like to talk to the feelings. So like we've done this before. I'm like, hey, stuff. Hey, feeling. What's going on? How, like, where are you coming from? Like, what are you doing? Where did you learn that you needed to react this way? Because that where did we learn is going to come back to the original incident or the time in our lives or the familiar experiences. When we recognize that this is, I'm reacting as if this other thing is happening, then I say to myself, well, this isn't that. This right now isn't that thing from my childhood, because I'm not a child anymore. This right now isn't that thing from, 5 years ago during that messy breakup, because that is over now. This isn't, the time that we had to go to the emergency room because it was a real emergency. Like, this isn't that. So we separate it into now, and then we say, okay, how do I need to deal with whatever's going on now?
I love that. And I have observed, and even in myself, even like I'm getting better, so it doesn't happen as frequently. But I have observed in others and in myself that the reaction's quite childish. So I'm like, didn't grow beyond that point. Right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah. Yeah, we have our neural networks in our brain, right? The networks that contain information, our memories, kind of when they're activated, sometimes our memories get activated and our brain can't tell the difference between a memory and like a reality. And so we can say to ourselves, like, okay, I'm remembering what it was like in this moment, but this isn't that moment. And I'm not that person anymore. Even if it wasn't from childhood, but it was from like your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or whatever, right? Like, however old we are, we've grown since yesterday.
Right.
We have more information now than we did back then. We have more capabilities now because we have more experience. Like, it's just guaranteed. Like, I have more experience today than I did yesterday. I know a little bit more today than I did yesterday about, myself and about how to handle things and about the world around me. And because I've taken in more information.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What else about triggers that we haven't touched on that we should?
everyone gets triggered. It's not a trauma thing. Like we talk, we kind of talk about the word trigger. Like, what do you think when you hear the word trigger? Like, it's kind of cringy, right? Like people are like,
well, because I think, and sorry to interrupt you, but I think that we have been kind of trained to think that way, because oftentimes, like say you're online and you're scrolling or whatever, when you see trigger warning,
mm-hmm.
you know it's not going to be like, my husband bought me flowers today. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know that's not it. You know it's going to
No.
be something that we should sort of brace ourselves for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel
Well,
like
yeah.
we've been kind of taught that.
Yeah, and I also think there's a negative reaction to people saying like, oh, there's a trigger warning, or oh, there's this is triggering for me, because I think there's sometimes like a negative connotation about like quote unquote therapy speak, or like people being like soft, or people being like not, too overly sensitive. Like I hear a lot of that, like people are overly sensitive, or people, you have to be so careful now, or you have to, you can't say anything anymore, right? Like, so like that's kind of what I associate with like when we talk about triggers. I think people think about that reaction sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I want everyone to realize that like a trigger is really, all it is an activating event. It's just something that activates your brain, and the part of your brain that goes into like fight or flight, or that kind of helps you react in an emergency. That's the part of your brain that a trigger activates. It's an activating event for the emergency management system of your brain.
Ah, great way to put it. I like that. Clipping that one out.
I love it. And then the emergency management system kicks into gear and starts to solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it does that through a variety of either unhealthy or healthy coping skills, depending on what our autopilot is programmed for.
Yeah, what we got for tools, right?
Right. And most of that stuff, because it's very primitive, it's very like our emergency management system is not using our most recent data.
Right.
Our emergency management system is using data that it learned a very long time ago, because that's when we learned how to survive. We learned how to survive in childhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we often kick out childhood strategies when when that emergency management system is activated.
Or, and could it be something that we've practiced over and over and over and over, whether we've wanted to or not? So it's become that well learned, because it brings me to, a women's self-defense course that I took, where my guy was like, you need to train constantly, because you will revert to your lowest level of training when you're in an emergency. Mm-hmm. So the more that you practice XYZ move or whatever it is that you're doing for self-defense, the more that is going to be what you end up pulling out of your tool chest when you need it the most. So absolutely. Same sort of idea.
Yeah, absolutely. We use the thing that is the most accessible, the most automatic. We automate things that we practice all the time. So we have to practice on purpose. And when we practice on purpose, we're teaching our brain to do something we want it to do, instead of just having it do the thing that it already learned how to do a long time ago that may or may not be helpful anymore.
Right. Or that probably isn't helpful.
Right.
9 times out of 10.
Right. It's old stuff. It's usually not that helpful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I think this was a really great talk. I think it was really well timed for me. So thanks.
I love it.
Yeah, same. Like, I think this was a really great talk, and I think that it's important because I know you're out there too, like in people land, and you see it happen all over the place, right? Like we see people, whether they be getting triggered in, road rage situations, and then we see what some of those results are, and that can be incredibly tragic. And, obviously that's not really was the context of what we're talking about here, is more like emotional, dealings, that kind of thing. Although I think that's emotional too, I guess. But I think that it's important for people to understand that there is a process to this. Because before I knew that, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. You don't know until you know.
Right. So thank you for sharing your
Absolutely.
expertise.
This was fun.
As always, it's like we always say it's our favorite time of the month, right?
It is. I love it.
Definitely.
I think this is so much fun. I'm so glad we've been doing it, and I want to keep doing it forever.
Me too. I don't see us stopping ever, because you know what? People are always going to need us. There's always going to be like a new thing or something that comes up as technology progresses, as civilization progresses, right? Like new things develop, new situations that we need to overcome. So I think we're always going to have something to talk about forever.
I think so too.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to check out what we've done in the past and then hook up with us for forever, because you just heard it here, we're here forever, you guys, then hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at MOMnation USA. Scroll down just a short ways. You will see what Laura was talking about earlier, and that is the playlist for mental wealth. That is all of our mental wealth episodes on video. You will also see at the top of that homepage, we have a podcast now, and it is just the Mental Wealth Podcast. There's a couple of other ones there too. If you feel a little saucy, you can check those out. But this is the one that we're talking about today. So check it out there if you prefer to listen podcast style, like no video included. Although I don't know why they wouldn't want to watch us on video, or I don't know. But if they don't, and they're running, walking, biking, shopping, driving, all of that stuff, then I don't suggest watching the video.
Agreed.
Yeah, during those times, not safe, guys. So hop on over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for MOMnation Talk Radio. There you'll find us, like, download, notify, click the bell, all the things. You'll never miss a beat, and we will see you next time.
Bye. See you next time. Bye.
Are you facing a divorce? Struggling with custody? Is that about child support? Unsure how to protect your rights? Or maybe your family's future? At Cox Sandoval Law, we understand family challenges because we've been there. Attorney Annette Cox Sandoval has over 20 years of experience. Her dedication has earned her recognition as one of Arizona's top 50 pro bono attorneys and one of Chandler's top family law firms. Your family's future deserves the best. Contact Cox Sandoval Law now.